I slammed on the brakes in my driveway, heart hammering against my ribs like it was trying to claw its way out. Hit the garage opener expecting the usual screech, but this time nothing moved. Then grinding the door jerked halfway up and stuck. I stared. Inside my own damn garage, two filthy diesel trucks sat wedged in so tight the side mirrors were kissing my tool bench. Diesel fumes stung my eyes, oil puddles soaking into the concrete, and my blood boiled so hard I thought my head might blow off. This wasn't a parking mistake. This was a full-on home invasion. Standing smack in my parking spot, arms crossed, chin-jutted, smug as a fox who's raided the henhouse, was Delilah. Delilah Thornberry, the HOA vice president. Clipboard in hand like a badge of office, lips curled in that "aren't you glad I'm in charge" way. "What the hell are your trucks doing in my garage?" I hollered, and let me tell you, my voice didn't just crack, it thundered. Delilah didn't blink. "Emergency protocol," she sniffed. "The board gave me master keys. For the good of the community." One truck had a Thornberry construction magnet, the other had HOA board member plastered across the door. Like that was supposed to make it okay. While I was at work 12 hours on the line making sure our fighter jets stayed in the air, Delilah and her minions had broken into my house, hijacked my garage, and then get this, slapped a violation notice on my door, as if I was the criminal. It was war now. And the way it ended, well, let's just say karma decided to use my garage as a weapon. If you've ever had an HOA horror story, you know what I mean. Drop your wildest one in the comments. But let me walk you through how Delilah made the worst mistake of her HOA career. My name's Ezra Caldwell, 52. Machinist by trade, born with motor oil under my fingernails, third generation in a line of folks who build things meant to last. My hands look like I lost a fight with a belt sander, but they've paid for everything I own, most recently this modest 1960s ranch house my Aunt Millicent left me when she passed. Maplewood Heights. It sounded like the kind of neighborhood where folks mind their own business and wave as you mow the lawn. I was wrong about that. My pride and joy. Dad's restored '85 Chevy. The truck that hauled 3 generations of Caldwells to work to fishing holes through snowdrifts you could lose a cow in. That garage, barely bigger than a shoebox, was sacred ground. Turns out I wasn't the only one who wanted it. Delilah had been circling my house like a buzzard ever since I moved in. You know the type, perfect hair nails so manicured you wonder if she's ever opened a can of paint, and a Mercedes SUV she parks diagonally just to remind everyone she can. For 8 years she'd terrorized Maplewood Heights. Measured grass with a ruler, photographed trash cans left out too long. And every violation notice came with a handy recommendation for Thornberry Construction, her husband's company. So when the city said they were resurfacing our street and parking would be tight for a week, Delilah could have asked nicely. But why ask when you can decree? She made up new parking rules, handed her cronies first dibs, then without so much as a phone call declared my garage emergency community parking. For HOA vehicles only. No notice, no permission. Just a power move. That night I dug through Aunt Millicent's old files, the air thick with the smell of musty cardboard and ancient cologne. My fingers brushed across something brittle and yellowed, the original 1962 subdivision deed. My heart started doing double time. According to the surveyor's notes, my corner lot included a 15-foot strip the HOA had called common area for 60 years. The garden, the entrance fountain, even part of the community center sat on my land. Delilah was busy stealing my garage, but she'd accidentally built half her HOA kingdom on my property. I didn't sleep that night. My brain ran circles thinking about every assessment I'd paid, every HOA meeting I'd skipped because it didn't matter. Turns out it mattered plenty. The next morning, while the stink of diesel still clung to my garage, I got to work. First trespassing charges, sure. But this wasn't about trucks. This was about blowing up a scheme decades in the making. By noon, the police, a tow truck, and Delilah herself were clogging my driveway. "Officers, he's imprisoning community property," she screeched, waving her clipboard so hard she nearly took out her own eye. The cop, a guy who looked like he'd seen every flavor of suburban drama, took one look at the deed I handed over, then at Delilah. "Ma'am, these vehicles are on his property. That's trespassing." The color drained from her face faster than you could say emergency protocol. I laid out the whole mess. See, officer, not only did she break into my garage, she's been billing the HOA for years to maintain land that belongs to me. Here's the original deed. The cop's eyebrows shot up. Delilah sputtered something about adverse possession, but I'd grown up with a father who loved nothing more than to argue property law over pancakes. Adverse possession only applies if you use someone's land openly and without consent, I told her. Wrong surveys don't change deeds. I pressed charges and the trucks were gone before noon. The tow guy shaking his head and muttering, "These neighborhoods, man." Delilah wasn't done, though. That afternoon, a fancy envelope showed up. Thornberry Legal Services looked legit, felt heavy, demanding $5,000 for illegal detention of emergency vehicles. I called the state bar. No such law firm. Another felony for Delilah's pile. But her real move came that evening, a work crew pouring concrete hammering no parking signs into that disputed 15 feet of land. Her husband's employees, no permits, no clue. I documented everything. Photos, video, timestamps. When county code enforcement showed up, Delilah's crew had finished 3 posts and a fence. Ladies got brass, the code officer said, writing tickets so fast he almost ran out of ink. That's $15,000 in fines and about a dozen violations. I just grinned and handed him my folder. Next, she called an emergency HOA board meeting accusing me, get this, of threatening community safety. I showed up early, brought my attorney, a professional surveyor, and Jessica Martinez from Channel 7. Before you get started, folks, my attorney said this building sits on property illegally claimed for 60 years. My client owns it. The room gasped. Jessica started filming. Delilah shrieked, but my attorney stayed cool. Original deeds beat fake surveys. You've all been paying to landscape Mr. Caldwell's land for decades. Jessica hit her with the big one, over $200,000 in HOA contracts funneled to Thornberry Construction for work on my property. Delilah's jaw dropped. My lawyer piled on, installing signs and fences during active litigation. That's destruction of evidence. The DA agreed to pursue charges. Delilah lost it. Accused me of a conspiracy, tried to throw me out. The room applauded as I explained how she'd terrorized the neighborhood for years, running a scam out of her community service. That was the domino. The next day, neighbors started coming out of the woodwork, showing me violation notices, inflated invoices, blacklists for contractors who wouldn't play ball. The evidence stacked up so high, even Jessica looked stunned. Ezra, this isn't just HOA drama. This is organized racketeering. A few days later, Delilah's last gambit was as bold as it was stupid. She brought in a convoy of construction trucks, backhoe and all, and started digging trenches for emergency security barriers on the disputed land. I filmed everything, called the police, and handed over my court filings. Delilah tried accusing me of terroristic threats. The officer looked at her paperwork, looked at my stack of deeds, and sighed. Then her husband, in a move that could only be described as a confession, started yelling about destroying survey markers. Cops cuffed them both for evidence tampering. Delilah wailed as they led her away. The Queen of Maplewood Heights, brought down by her own arrogance and a garage door lock. From there it snowballed. Federal investigators showed up. Turns out this wasn't Delilah's first rodeo. The Thornberrys had run kickback schemes with at least a dozen HOAs across 3 counties. Inflated maintenance contracts, fake legal threats, property fraud, the whole 9 yards. My little garage dispute triggered the biggest HOA fraud prosecution in state history. The Caldwell Coalition formed almost overnight, neighbors banding together, documenting every scam, every shady invoice, every threat. My garage became mission control, the epicenter of a movement. News vans lined the street. The Attorney General announced new homeowner protections, forced financial transparency for every HOA in the state. Jessica's documentary hit Channel 7, and overnight HOA bullies everywhere got a wake-up call. By the time the dust settled, Delilah and her husband were in federal prison, their assets seized to pay back every victim. Neighbors got checks in the mail. Property values soared. Our subdivision finally lived up to its name. Peaceful, honest folks looking out for each other. The 15-foot strip became Millicent Caldwell Memorial Park, and every year we hold a Freedom from Tyranny picnic right where Delilah once built her little empire. People ask me what the lesson is, what changed everything. It's this: the only power bullies have is the power you let them take. You don't need to yell or fight dirty. Just document, stand your ground, and let the law do its work. Turns out sometimes the best revenge is a locked garage door and a stack of old paperwork. So here's my question for you. Where's the line between community and control? When does looking out for your neighbors become tyranny? Drop your stories, your questions, your outrage in the comments. Have you ever stood up to someone who thought they owned you? Tell me about it. Let's make sure no one ever gets away with this again.